Thank you. Okay, we make a start, and possibly those who've refilled their coffee will be joining us in a minute. So my name is Ivor Ambrose. I'm the managing director of ENAT, the European Network for Accessible Tourism, an organization, non-profit organization based in Brussels for 17 years, working on accessible tourism, as the name says, in Europe, but also around the world. So we're very proud and happy to have so many people at this third World Summit. We were present to start the first World Summit in Montreal, also participated in Brussels in 2018. So today, in this session 11, we're going to talk about mobility and transport and services and systems to make the mobility in our cities, in our destinations, more accessible for all kinds of visitors. So we have four speakers, or four groups of speakers, I should say, today. So I'll be introducing them one by one. We will hear the presentations, and then we will take questions from each speaker. And at the very end, if there's any time left, we have a general question and answer session. First of all, I just want to say a little bit about, not myself so much, but about ENAT and the way we work with accessibility and transport. We have been, as I say, working as an association. We are a multi-stakeholder association. So we have many organizations from different types of organizations and working on different subjects. So our ENAT members are our resource and our source of expertise and good practices. The people who join ENAT take part in projects. They act as a knowledge base. And a lot of our work is simply putting people with a question about accessibility in touch with relevant members and partners. So we have a role as a facilitator or even a catalyst to encourage accessibility in destinations and businesses. In the field of mobility and transport, we are very heavily involved. At the moment, we've just finished a project to do with air transport, the INCLAVI project, Inclusive Aviation Project, where we've developed a training course for people working in airports and airlines who need to know how to cater for passengers with reduced mobility, PRMs, as the industry calls them. This training course at inclavi.eu, the website is INCLAVI, inclavi.eu, will have a course of a curriculum of 40 courses, which follow the customer journey right through from websites all the way to the airport, in the airport, on the plane, and back again, collecting your luggage and so on. This is one of our contributions, is this online training course, which will be free of charge. It's open now, actually, at inclavi.eu for students, for the frontline staff, for the managers in the aviation sector. So that's just one little news for you. We don't have a presentation on this at this conference. It's that new. But everybody can take this course free of charge. And we are also working with airports. We had Istanbul Airport in the project to help us design the course. We had IATA, the International Association of Aviation Travel Association. And we have also worked with the universities that have put forward the platform that we have in Finland for the course. So that's just one little tip about the inclavi.eu course. But we're going to hear about some other aspects of mobility and transport. So I'm going to hand over very shortly to the first speaker. Now I've lost my notes. Sorry, these tablets are wonderful, but they sometimes hide things from you. Okay, he wants my password. And And hello. And our first speaker is Alba Ramírez-Saiz, who is next to me. She is from the University of Madrid, the University Politécnica of Madrid. And she has specialized in universal design and design for all in urban design and urban planning. She's worked on local, national, and international research projects, contributing with the accessibility perspective, and published numerous papers showcasing her work. So she's going to talk about the unique project, which reimagines proximity planning for inclusive tourism with a special tool, which she's going to explain for us. So I hand over to you straight away, Alba. I know you have also a co-author, Andrea Alonso Ramos, who is the professor in urban planning at the Universidad Politécnica de Madrid.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. So good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, I'm Alba Ramírez, and this project was co-authored by myself and Andrea Alonso, who is professor at Polytechnic University of Madrid, but she couldn't be here today because of teaching duties. So this project, Unique, was born when we were trying to transform the way we study urban planning and urban design at university into tools that urban practitioners could actually use, because we detected that a lot of times urban practitioners didn't include accessible universal design because it was too difficult for them. They weren't used to using it. So we decided to facilitate this work by developing tools that could be beneficial for both citizens, tourists, and obviously researchers who could transform our work into real policies. So what is the Unique project? Well, it is focused on the city of proximity. For those who don't know the city of proximity, it aims to create friendlier and more walkable urban environments. It aims to foster walkability by drawing essential uses or services closer to inhabited areas, and thus they can deliver more vibrant environments. Both tourists and residents benefit from more proximal areas that reduce the number of motorized trips in favor of active mobility. I know that most of us, when we travel to a new city, we like it to be walkable. We don't want to spend all our time in the train, in the tram, or in buses. We want to walk the city. We want to discover the city, and we don't want that city to be empty. We want it to be alive. That's why the city of proximity offers the perfect framework for this to happen. In the images, you can see the case of Barcelona, who turned their streets into this vibrant environment. For example, making playgrounds in the streets itself, turning a lot of streets into bike lanes, and also delivering some other services such as cafeterias or even areas to sit down and just rest for a little bit in the public space. So the public space would be more crowded with more life and more people, so that we could enjoy this alive environment. Okay. This model focuses on a bottom-up design and participatory processes, so they could reduce inequalities because people were involved in the urban developing process, also regain local values because, again, people were involved. We were not trying to develop like these international cities that all look alike the same, and also improve the street quality. And all these are meant to be to better the urban areas and accommodate different urban needs. But how do we achieve this participation? Obviously, we need tools. And in this case, we are talking about the proximity flower. This tool allows citizens to participate in the creation of proximity environments. And I'm going to explain to you more or less how it works so you can understand its importance and use. First, it uses the shape of a flower to help participants understand the function of the exercise. It is a very attractive means, so everyone is more willing to participate than just by answering some random questionnaire or forms that we are tired of. Well, those who participate in city planning are tired of filling. And as you may recognize, one of the main barriers is that it's a paper tool. So those preliminary versions that try to be also detailed are trying to improve its accessibility, but right now it's kind of difficult to use it by everyone. If we have a closer look at this proximity flower, the function is as follows. We put the home in the middle of the flower, and then each petal collects one type of uses or services. For example, if we have a look at the entertainment one, we can have bars and cafes near our residential areas, and maybe swimming pools larger or farther away because they are not that useful on a daily basis, and we could allow ourselves to take those other means of transportation and not only go there by walking. Then the flower itself has 3 circles, each one representing 5, 15, and 30-minute walk. So you can place the uses or services at the distance that you will be willing to walk to find them. And what we aim with this project, with a unique project, is to examine the level of accessibility, the current, well, now not current, I will tell you in a minute, but the current level of accessibility that this prototype or this tool had in 2024, and to improve its usability for all people to use it. So why do we want to do this? Well, as we are all here in a very inclusive environment, you will know why, because we want everyone to be part of the scientific and the consultation processes. So what we are doing is make people involved, people of different ages, different abilities, so they can join the participatory processes and be part of these collaborative developing processes. This way, they will see their needs covered, not only those who are able to walk long distances, because we have a lot of different users in the city. It also aims to foster the participation of people with disabilities. As you see in the picture, we are counting with a variety of users in this project. In this case, Fernando, who is one of our citizen scientists, is showing and was the one presenting the tool. And we don't want them to be excluded. Normally, people with disabilities are excluded from co-designing processes. And in urban studies, few consider them as active participants and only use them, because use is the correct word, use them for checking their results. So we used a very integrative methodology, which is to develop the project by and for the people. In this case, we used the citizen science approach. This way, we had a direct collaboration with a diverse user groups, like people with disabilities, older adults, and other experts in social integration and urban planning. And we co-designed all the solutions, all the projects, and we worked together in all the phases of this project. We went through 5 phases, being the first one, the problem identification, then the co-prototyping, then the prototype development, and the last one that I'm going to present is testing and validation. Right now we have a 5th phase that is going through a second round of updates in which we are following the same 4 first steps, but we don't have yet all the results. So if you want more information, you can follow in all our accounts. We're in Twitter, LinkedIn, website, and we will post all the updates of this 5th phase in 2 months, more or less. In the first phase, we did some focus group with people with disabilities, and we asked them to try and complete the original version of the tool. This way, while they were trying to complete it, they detected all the problems. They worked in 2 previous versions. We presented one that was developed by the Technical University of Madrid, that is placed in this graphic on the left, and one from Munich, which is on the right. If we have a closer look at this infographic, we can see, even if you don't pay attention to the letters or the sentences, that the contrast, for example, on the Munich example was pretty low. People with some kind of blinders or color deficiencies will find it difficult to complete it. Also, the instructions were confusing sometimes, really long for people with cognitive disabilities. Some spaces to place the services were horrible to use in the case of Madrid, because people couldn't write inside of them. Also, they had to write a lot. If you see around the flower in the case of Madrid on the left, and on the bottom left column in the case of Munich on the right, there were plenty of services to transfer into a flower. So they had to write a lot. And people who had some trouble writing find it really difficult to complete the exercise. At the end of the day, there were a lot of mistakes in terms of accessibility that make it difficult for people to participate without assistance in an autonomous way, which was one of our objectives, to allow people to participate without any help. So to achieve this, we went to phase 2, in which we co-prototype with people with disabilities. They worked to solve the detected barriers. And one of the key aspects is that they use their life experiences to propose all needed updates. Then, when we had collected all those updates, we went to prototype development. We applied all the suggested changes into real models, and we detected that obviously blind people and paper printed didn't match. So we decided to develop 2 different prototypes. One that is a paper-based model that anyone can print, and another one which is a tactile model that is written in Braille, and people who can read on paper can use this freely. If we have a closer look, we can see that the contrast is much higher, that instructions are very reduced, only the essentials. We also have made a difference between color, which is the things that they have to work on, and black, which are the instructions and things from the task, to say it somehow. We have also specified that you can put uses or services in plus 30 minutes, which was one thing that we were asked a lot during the focus group, but because it was unclear. So we make it clear for everyone to understand. We also included some icons so people can connect the terminology to some kind of drawing or more simplified language. And finally, we put numbers for each service, so people don't need to write all the services, and they can just write the number, which is much easier and simpler to transfer from the list into the exercise. Then we also developed the tactile version, which is already printed, although we are trying to improve it because it has some mistakes that we have to solve, because this is the first version. With it, we developed 77 totems with the services in Braille, so you can read them without any need for further instructions. Then we have the 7 petals with gaps or holes to insert the totems in Braille and in raised lettering, so they can also read the raised lettering if they need to. And finally, the center of the flower with also gaps or holes to insert the petals as if it were a Lego. Okay, so it was easier to replicate, because one of the key things about this tool is that it's being used in different cities around the globe. So we needed a model that could be replicated easily if we just send the file somewhere like Paris, Munich, or South Korea. Then we went to the fourth phase, which was testing and validation. This was a very short project, so we only gathered 72 responses. And all the validators answered to a survey blindly. I mean, they weren't told which version was ours and which version was previous. And we detected that the paper version and the tactile version were the ones that were selected to be most attractive and most accessible, which was our objective at the end of the day. As you can see, the first two are the previous versions, and the second two, the second row, are the unique project versions. And 92% of participants believe that unique versions will help people with disabilities participate in public processes, which obviously resulted as we were willing to with this project, although most of them agreed that some adjustments were needed. That's why we are conducting that fifth phase that I told you about, that we are now doing. So we had several impacts with this first phase of the project. First, the scientific, as we developed an inclusive participatory methodology. Also social, because we empowered people to participate in urban co-design. And also we promoted equal participation, because most of the time people with disabilities don't participate because they need assistance. And maybe we can't provide with one auxiliary person per participant. Also economic, because we try to develop a very easily replicated tool. So every university or municipal council could replicate it without investing a lot. And obviously, it is a means to promote the inclusion of more accessible services within the city and urban planning. In terms of political, it informs inclusive urban policies, because we are acknowledging the needs of people with disabilities within the cities. And also environmental, because less cars, less pollution, which is an evident result of this project. So just to conclude, I wanted to leave you with 3 reflections. The first one is that if we design for equitable destinations, well, for walkable destinations, we'll make them equitable for everyone. Because a lot of people can drive, a lot of people have low stamina, and most of the people just want to wander around the city without the need to wait for the bus, wait for an inclusive service, without needing to ask everywhere they go because they get lost in the city. So easier cities and walkable cities are equal to more inclusive cities. Then inclusive planning empowers accessible tourism, because, as I have said, if we are developing these inclusive tools, we'll have more inclusive cities for everyone. And finally, we need new tools that include everyone. A lot of time we develop tools to more or less include all the people, but if those tools aren't developed with the target groups, we are not really developing inclusive tools. And finally, I wanted to bring from our citizen science group one quote that I believe is the summary or the grappling of this project, which is, everyone needs to enjoy the city. We live, we go sightseeing, and we socialize in them. Nobody should feel excluded, and more praise to take the citizen science approach to fight it. And that was all. As I told you, if you want to join this movement and get all the updates, you can look for the unique project online, and you will find out hopefully easily and get all the information. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Alba, thank you very much. We'll take a couple of questions from the audience if there's any question at the moment. But I have a comment also as well, because my background is in environmental psychology. A long time ago, I was a student, but we had various methods for what you're showing here to me is a kind of communication tool. It's a decision-making tool. It's a way of setting priorities when you're planning. And of course, it needs to be creative because we need to have creative ideas. We need to support, foster innovation. And of course, I'm a great believer in the 15-minute city, the walkable city. But I think the interesting thing that you've really brought to this audience is that it's the matter of having the will and the understanding that everybody needs to be involved in planning to get solutions which will be equitable, even democratic in a true sense. So I was just wondering, in the end, when you go with your results, maybe the city planners are already involved, but when you take this to the decision maker who has to make the final decisions, shall we invest in this or invest in that? Is this a convincing way to get the politicians on board?
Well, actually, this tool is now being used by both researchers and urban planners from different municipalities. In Munich, for example, we conducted a workshop before this project in which we involved several municipalities around Germany, and they were really eager to use this tool, the previous version. So what we would like to do is to introduce this inclusive version of the tool. So those already engaged with the 15-minute city and engaged with using this tool can really incorporate it or substitute the previous one. And actually they are applying some of these results from these workshops into actual policies. At least, for example, in Munich, they are taking action.
Okay, thank you very much. We have to move on. I can see I've got Sarah Engelhardt about to speak now. We have a wonderful flashing screen here that's telling me time's up. So Sarah, just to introduce you briefly, I know you're going to talk about actually travel. Now we move from mobility, urban mobility, to the travel field. You've got a background and experience in travel related to cruise tourism. And now you're taking us from perhaps your home country to Norway and looking at the possibility of making the accessible tour excursions. So please go ahead. Tell us about a little bit about well, your background, if you need to add some more, and your presentation, please.
Yeah, thank you, Ivor. And I'm very glad to be here today on behalf of videlis Seniorenreisen. This is a German non-profit tour operator offering assisted group trips for seniors and disabled people. We have more than 35 years of experience in accessible travel. I myself am a part of videlis since over 10 years. One of our missions in the recent years is to make cruises more accessible. The number of accessible cabins on cruise ships is increasing, and that is a great development. But shore excursions are still a major barrier, especially for larger groups of wheelchair users or groups with mixed mobility. With that, I mean groups consisting of people using wheelchairs, people using walkers, and also persons that can walk unaided, but not for long distances or are not able to climb stairs. For these groups, the current solutions like adapted taxis or walking tours are not really suitable. So our solution is to use an accessible bus for the shore excursions instead. Sorry, there. Now I have the right slide. Please excuse me. So on this slide, you can see two pictures of accessible buses. The picture on the right shows the bus we are using for our excursions. It has the lift for the step-free access situated in the front part on the side. The bus on the right has the lift situated in the back part on the side of the vehicle. So there are different layouts possible for these kinds of buses. The bus we are using accommodates 3 people that can stay in their wheelchair during the drive, and up to 40 other persons who use the seats in the bus, whether they are entering via the lift or via the stairs. So we offer since 2018 an Danube River Cruise with a completely accessible shore excursion program. And we do this by taking the bus that I just have shown you along. It travels on land from harbor to harbor and ensures continuous accessibility for the excursions at every stop. Our next goal now is to adapt this concept to the Norwegian coastal route, also known as Hurtigruten. And I like to share all the learnings we had along this planning process with you now. So you might ask yourself, why take a bus along? Why not rent a bus at every stop? So the main reason is that these accessible buses are not widely available yet. You could use city buses, which usually have a step-free entrance with a ramp, but these buses are only a makeshift solution. On the one hand, they offer only limited space for wheelchair users. On the other hand, they are not equipped for a tour guide. They don't have a special tour guide seat or a microphone system. And yeah, let's be honest, going around in a city bus doesn't exactly feel like holiday too. So the other big aspect for us is if you take your own bus along, you can also use it for the travel to the starting point of the cruise and back. So this is a service we are offering for our guests. And in having the same bus at every stop, our guests and their helpers become familiar with the bus, making the boarding much quicker and also much more comfortable for everybody involved. Lastly, in our experience, having our own bus along gives us much more flexibility to handle unexpected and short-term changes in the ship's schedule. So the first thing you always have to look at is it even possible to take a bus along? Because ships operate with multiple crews, they work in shifts, they can effectively run 24 hours a day. But buses and bus drivers are subject to very strict regulation regarding driving and rest time. So their operational time window is limited. And to also keep in mind, and this is especially true for Norway, that the distances on land and on sea can differ. So in Norway, the ship just goes along the coast while the bus has to travel around multiple fjords. So it has a much longer way and longer travel time. But there is a solution to these problems. For example, working with 2 bus drivers and with that enlarging the operational time for the bus. And also what we do, shortening excursions or even leaving out certain ports. With shortening excursions, I mean when the ship stays in a harbor from morning till evening, we maybe only offer an excursion that goes to early afternoon. So the bus can already leave and travel on to the next harbor while the ship is still in port. And this gives the bus a much needed time advantage. So after you decided to take your own bus along and also determined that it is possible to do so, let's come to the most important factor, the planning of the excursions. These are like the heart of the cruise, and they are the main reason you take the bus along. And one thing that is important to remember, and that often gets overlooked, is that the time it takes to get on and off the bus for groups with disabilities. In our experience, if 6 people are using the wheelchair lift and 20 additional people getting on and off the bus via the stairs, it takes about 15 minutes from opening the door until the bus is ready to leave. And this time you have to take into consideration because you need it at every stop. Also, with these groups, usually during the excursions, the walking speed is slower and they might need more frequent rest breaks. And speaking of breaks, also bathroom breaks tend to take much longer, as many locations only can offer 1 or 2 accessible bathrooms. And yet another aspect that is special if you are using an accessible bus is that the bus needs about 3 meters, that is approximately 10 feet of space to the side to operate the lift. So you have to take this in consideration when choosing where to stop with your guests. So what we are doing is we usually use the ship's existing excursions as an inspiration, but we adapt them to the needs of our group. And for that, it is essential to find a local tour guide that is able and willing to accompany the group's needs. That usually means shortening excursions, leaving out certain points that you would normally do, maybe also changing some things up because, not every attraction is accessible yet. And also, finding these special places where the bus can stop, where the guests can get on and off safely and comfortably. So generally speaking, less is more. Focusing on 1 or 2 highlights per excursion usually is enough, especially taking into account, on the one hand, the time it takes to get on and off the bus, and also that this always means it's strenuous for the guest to do so. And what is also very important to make a cruise a success is that you take into account the local conditions you are faced with in the harbors. Not every harbor allows a direct access to the ship with the bus. Sometimes there are longer distances. You need to walk with your group, and therefore you need to calculate extra time, but maybe even supply additional wheelchairs for guests with walking impairment who would otherwise not be able to make this distance. And you should also take into account not everywhere there is a really suitable surface. Some harbors there are cobblestone, there are gravel paths your guests need to move on. So you might also want additional helpers in this situation. There is the chance in some harbors to apply for special permits to enter restricted areas if you are working with groups with disability, but you need to apply for this beforehand, so you need to know about it. And you should always be aware of the size and the height and weight of the bus you are using, because this can be a limited factor also, because you can't go everywhere with every bus. So what we do as videlis is to check the conditions in advance personally on site. But should that not be possible, you need trusted local partners you can rely on for this information. So in addition to the planning, the organization beforehand and also during the trip, communication is a key. So we establish a constant line of communication between the ship and bus. We do that by having a tour guide with our group on the ship and also a person from our company in the bus. They are in contact, so we get immediate notice should anything change. Should the ship arrive early or late? Should it maybe even have to leave out a harbor or stop at another position in the harbor? So we have the possibility to react to these changes due to the early notice and can still, make it to the best outcome for our guests. So let me share the conclusions we've come to from several years of the Noob cruises and the planning of the Norwegian coastal route, which we have not done this trip yet, but we are planning to actually do it next year. So we firmly believe that with careful planning and with the right partners, cruises can be made much more accessible, especially, for groups with diverse mobility needs. When you have this accessible bus with you, that ensures the inclusion at the shore excursions. And of course, any extra effort you are putting in leads to smoother logistics, a greater comfort, and a better travel experience for all people involved, and that always should be the aim. With that, I come to the end of my presentation, and I thank you very much for your attention and interest.
Thank you, Sarah. Very interesting for me because I've just been to Norway and had a couple of day cruises from Ålesund on the west coast there that you're talking about. We noticed some of the tour buses that were taking passengers from the cruise ships were actually very long and having trouble getting around the sharp hairpin bends up and down the mountains. So much so that the traffic around Geiranger was totally frozen for some time. But it's a question of logistics. It's a question of giving the cruise passengers a better experience, obviously. But in the first place, as you say, just making accessible shore excursions possible. And I just mentioned one more thing, which is quite interesting, that you talk about the role of the tourist guides as well, which is very important. At ENAT, we've developed a course for tourist guides on guiding people with intellectual impairments. That is to say, people who may have some cognitive deficit. They may be, older people very often on cruises. They don't have the same concentration. They may be losing their short-term memory, dementia, that kind of thing, but they can still enjoy a cruise. And I'm just wondering if you also consider taking that into account when you're choosing your tourist guides, because that could be a very interesting dimension as people get older, and the cruise passengers, of course, are a broader group, but that would be one aspect that you might also consider.
Yeah, that's right. We are working mainly with older people, so the average age of our guests is 82 years. So we know there some have trouble to stay attentive for longer times, not understanding everything so quickly. So we look for tour guides who are, open to accommodate such a group, who not only giving numbers after numbers, but telling stuff from the day-to-day life, which is always very interesting for our clients. But also, I remember the Noob River Cruise, where we had a walking tour in the city of Bratislava, and it was a very hot day. And our guests, they weren't interested in seeing any buildings or hearing, any numbers. They just wanted to eat ice cream. And we had a tour guide who said, yeah, absolutely no problem. I know the best ice cream shop in Bratislava. He brought our guests there. They spent the 1.5 hours we scheduled for that walking tour in the ice cream shop. They were incredibly happy. And we were happy to have a tour guide who was, yeah, so spontaneous and so open to react to that. So, yeah, if we find tour guides with that mindset, and I think this is the most important thing, that you have the right mindset to be open for special groups, then we are very happy and we work with them long term.
Okay, thank you. You might meet actually here Themis Halvatzis Stringer, who gave a presentation. I think she's already given it about the tea guide training that we offer. So I think we don't have time for another question. I've dominated the session as a moderator and misused my privilege. And I'd now like to ask Consuelo Agnesi and Carlo Di Biase to join us on the platform. Thank you, Sarah. Okay. So for this presentation, we have, yes, our two speakers, and they're using sign language. So we will have interpretation from the sign language interpreters. And I hand over to Consuelo. She's got a very long and distinguished curriculum vitae. She's worked she's an architect, and I think the only architect who's been working in this field on accessibility as a deaf architect for many years. And they're going to talk about Padua in LIS, the lingua italiana, what's that? Signage, sign language. So the city inclusive tourist signage. Please, Consuelo. Thank you very much.
And you, Ivor, I'm sorry, I don't speak English very well, but I prefer Italian sign language now.
Padua ILIS is a unique project, a special project. Is a project that was born thanks to a team efforts of hearing and deaf people together. I will explain now how it worked. The municipality of Padua accepted this project. And me, as a deaf person, meaning like a deaf consultant, I'm a deaf consultant, a professional deaf. We started with this project in Padua with some board for tourists, for give them accessibility, visual accessibility for people using sign language or people with visual impairment. This project had the aim to give accessible contents to the audience. This project had the goal to give an added value to the city of Padua and its monuments. As you know, Padua has a rich history, a rich heritage of art and history. And UNESCO added some of this history, some of this heritage. What we can tell about this heritage, this immaterial heritage, is that this project had the aim to give value to people, to give people to give to all the people the information about the heritage that we have in Padua. We had the goal to give value to people, to language, to the identity. Also to the voice. In fact, in the team, we had different people with different expertise. So, for example, visiting the city, you have the possibility to have a guide that can bring you, that can push you in the history, in the fantastic heritage of this city. We chose also professional dubbing workers. And at the same time, we chose deaf professionals with their specific competencies. Okay, I want to show you now how the project started. Padua is the first city in Italy to have a board for tourists in Italian Sign Language. We were able to do this thanks to a great project that made us create 60 videos in Italian Sign Language that would have explained to people the history heritage of our city. You can use your phone. You can scan the QR code with your tablet of your phone, and automatically you will be able to watch the video that will guide you through sign language. We achieve this great goal thanks to the effort of deaf professionals and also with people with visual impairment. Padova in Lease is a project of the municipality of Padova, and in this work there were deaf professionals, and I was leading the project thanks to the Studio Architettura Studioinmovimento, in which there were scientific consultant, artistic consultant, and historic consultant. We were able to do this project together with different offices of the municipality. And that gives you an added value to the inclusion that we had as a goal. Are you curious to know how this process was made? Let's look at it. Well, did you see it? It was a really unique work, different professionals with different expertise. Our goal was to make an advertise that was able to dissolve the architectural barrier for communication. Now we can go deeper in in the process and in the way how we went. So Carlo Di Biase now will explain us how the process was done during the process. Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here. I'm really happy to meet you and to tell you about my experience. And I want to share my experience with you. So if there's something, and I would like to know how it worked, how we would be able to reach so high goal. So as you know, we worked from a text. We read the text and we signed, but it's not just that. I will explain you better now. So you have to think about the fact that the text has a specific communication intent inside. There's something inside the text that is expressed in Italian, in our case. That means that we can't follow the text and words on the text literally. But we have to find a way to take out the soul of this text and translate it into Italian Sign Language. So it was like a transposition. Transposition, yeah. What does that mean? The content of the text, we have to go down in the deeper roots of the text. So we have to take it. We have to take the contents. We have to work on it, to make reflection on it, and we have to find the better solution to make that the inner part of this text is possible to be translated into Italian Sign Language. Of course, to do that, we need specific competencies. So we called to work with us for deaf professionals. We have deaf LIS consultant, and for deaf people, LIS consultant, but that were really expert in artistic lexicon. As you can see there was one person that was a storyteller. On the other side, you can see me. And my expertise is about artistic lexicon. Of course, we weren't able to translate it just like that. Of course, we were really care about this process. There's also, as you can see, there's a video. There was another person working with us by distance that was checking our Italian Sign Language grammar, syntax, expressions, etc., etc. The process, of course, was not finished at that step because we needed local signs. For example, in Padua, there are different signs specific. Or, for example, there are specific way in Italian Sign Language in which you can express specific concept or through which you can call specific part of the city. For example, we have this sign that is Padova, okay? As you see before, we were repeating this sign over and over again. This sign comes from Saint Antonio, and through time it changed because it's more comfortable to do it in a lower position over our body. In Italy, you can find different way for signing the same concept. For example, the sign for municipality is different all over Italy. Every city, every place. This, for example, is a way of signing municipality. This is from Padua. Or, for example, design for monument. For example, we have a palace that is called Bow. We didn't know how to sign it. This word, Bow, one time this name came from a specific restaurant, a local restaurant, and this word means oaks in English. So we found that the meaning was oaks, and we decided to do the sign according to it. That means that we are not able to do just as we wanted, but we have to do a specific process to do this kind of work because we really cared about it. Of course, the process was not finished. This is just a provisional work because there were later other specific and consultant person with different expertise, as you can see here. There was, of course, a text adaptation. So the person that you can see in the picture was comparing the video with the text just to see, because the text was given us from the museum. So we had to adapt it in a specific way to do it a proper translation in Italian Sign Language. As I said before, I use design for municipality. And we had in this way the possibility to be more flexible and to make specific decision to reach our goal, to make that the text in the first language and the target text had the same common ground. Of course, after this step of the work, we had to give the text, the final text, to the municipality, just to see if they had to add something, to change something, to modify something. And at the end, after all of these steps, we had the final recording in sign language that you see just before, that you saw just a few minutes before. Okay, we worked with 60 videos with different monuments. So as we told you before, you can watch this video just scanning the QR code. What the municipality thought about this, it was that it was not possible just do all this work and just finish it. So they wanted to create an advertise. So we decided to add VV. I will explain later what is VV. You know that, for example, in Japan, we have a very famous kind of poetry that is called haiku, that is specific from Japan. We can say that VV, visual vernacular, it is the same thing. It's a kind of poetry, a kind of artistic expression specific of the deaf community. It's just a unique kind of artistic expression of our community. So every member of the deaf community knows visual vernacular. It's a way of expressing art through a visual way. There's no lexicon, no words. It's just like a movement in a three-dimensional dimension. For example, people that doesn't know that specific language can understand it. So we thought that it's interesting now to show you a little bit of this visual vernacular. Of course, visual vernacular can be created over specific areas. For example, in Padua, there's a cafe very famous that is Caffè Pedrotti. There's another place very famous, Il Prato della Valle, where you can see in the center, there's a statue, there's like a line of statue all over the water. Another very famous monument is Cappella Scrovegni. And another one is Clock Tower. Well, did you see it? Did you see how wonderful it was? That was art. This project and the methodology that we explained to you he was brought, sorry, just 1 second. I will repeat again now. 2 years ago, there was a congress for the ENS in Italy. We brought this project, we brought this methodology and how we worked with this video. And deaf people confirmed our theory. They were really satisfied with it. Of course, this isn't finished at all. We are working on to create another project just to advertise it inside the municipality of Padua. But we didn't want just to do the same thing, just to advertise things just in the same way. Just printed it on paper and just to share it around. We decided this time to do a different thing. We wanted to advertise it, to spread it in a different way. So we created every Tuesday like a session on the social media of the municipality of Padua. And so every Tuesday they publish a video. They did this for 1 whole year. It was like, you know, having a date. Every Tuesday we did this. So every person that was interested to it, they knew that every Tuesday they would have found a new video and became more aware of the project. So that's all. Did we finish, Carlo? So, of course, this project is not dead. We are continue working on it, but this is for us like a model to spread it around. And why we want to do that? because for us, this project has a really huge value for people, for culture, for monuments, for language. This project, of course, gives an added value for everyone. There's no one left aside. So the advertising will change. We are free to bring this project on. Thank you very much. Thank you, Carlo. Thank you to all the interpreters.
Thank you so much. It was a marvelous presentation, and I would say you have expressed for us in a very rich and enlightening way how deaf culture and cultural heritage meet in Padua. It's a unique project, I think, and one which everyone should know about. And I hope that in other countries, other sign languages, they will be able to follow your example. Now, I'm sorry to say we've run over time, so I have to invite the last speakers to come to the table, come to the podium, and we'll hear the last presentation. Thank you so much again. Thank you. Okay. So please, we have, we started late and you did an excellent presentation in very good timing, but we have one more presentation. This is from Alina, Zajadacz, and Pawel Sowa. You're from Poland. You're going to, I'm sorry, my notes have died again, just a moment. And you have, you're presenting for us the work that you've done at your university. It's just coming up here. You've been working in, right, in the Adam Mickiewicz University in Poznan. And you are the Vice Dean of Faculty of Geographical and Geological Sciences. So your research now focuses on accessible tourism. You were also told me you were present at in Brussels 2018 at the second World Summit, which is great. You're continuing in this line. You're also leading projects with European funding on University Accessibility Knowledge Center at the university, one of Poland's top 3 universities. And we have also with us the Magister Pawel Sowa. Is a PhD student at the doctoral school with his professor here. So his doctoral research explores accessible tourism in mountain areas for people with disabilities. And this presentation is on exploring the needs of people with disabilities in accessible tourism. So please, you have the floor.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very glad and I'm really happy to be here. I have 2 deaf sons, and one is architect too. So I'm very happy and thank you very much for information about accessible Padua. This is very important project for all. I'm a geographer and I, in my research, focus first of all in tourism geography and sustainable tourism and accessible tourism, of course. And today, together with Pawel, we would like to present the topic exploring the needs of people with disabilities in accessible tourism. I realized that we have little time, so we will present only selected results of this project, Erasmus Plus project, entitled The Development of Innovative Educational Method of Accessible Tourism in Central Europe. We developed this project together with the colleagues from Croatia, University of Pets, and I'm sorry, from University of Pets in Hungary, and with the teams from Croatia, University in Zagreb, and our university, of course, and in Cluj-Napoca, the team from Romania. This was in the period 2023-2025, and in our research, we did this research among 1,175 people with disabilities. And the main aim of this project was to prepare educational materials dedicated for adult people. And among others, we prepared the handbooks in 5 languages, in English version, and then in national languages. This means in Polish version, and Hungarian language, and Croatian and Romanian. And the education material are available on the e-learning platform in these 5 languages too. As a part of this project, we analyzed literature on accessible tourism, and we analyzed good practices on both national and international level. And then we did own research parallel in this 4 country, focused on the needs people with disabilities regarding tourism and the travel. And we work parallel in these 4 universities. And of course, we held joint meetings, workshop. This is example from our city, from Poznań. And we visited, for instance, Invisible Street. This is very interesting tourism attractions, because the blind people design this all, and we can visit this in the dark. And near our city, Poznań, is the school for blind people with very rich traditions, and blind people designed, prepared facilities not only inside this old building, but we create very sophisticated and beautiful sensory gardens. And of course, we use our universal design studio at our faculty, and we did a lot of experiments during our project. And the main aim of the study was to support the development of accessible tourism by examining the travel behavior of people with disabilities, and the obstacle have, and the training needs of tourism service staff. The research was conducted simultaneously in these 4 countries, and the surveys we developed in the period October 2023, January 2024, involving total this sample 1,175 people with different types of disability. And the characteristics of the responders included a lot of features, gender, age, marital status, etc. And for each disability, the analysis covered daily functioning limitations and mobility limitations, whether it was congenital, and the ability to leave home to daily task. And we included in our research a lot of types of disability and age-related limitations too. And now the findings, selected results of this project.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm happy to be here. We would like to give you some of the results. So I think we skipped this question. Okay. We prepared a lot of questions and we decided to show you some of them. So for example, who do you usually travel with? As you can see on the screen, mostly respondents, almost every second respondent said they are traveling with family, including spouse and children. Then almost also every second person replied that travels with friends and relatives. Then less respondents stated independent travel and colleagues from work. Who typically organizes your trips? And again, here we have a very strong answer with other family members. So almost like 40% of respondents. 1/3 of them is self-organizing, and another 1/3 of them is using the help of non-governmental organizations who specialize supporting people with disabilities during their travel. Main purpose of travel was mostly visiting relatives and friends. As you see, more than 1/3 of respondents. Many of them wanted to to explore nature-related trips as well as cultural tourism. The lowest interest was in business travels. The key findings, we identified 6 main areas where accessibility challenges are most common during travel. So transportation, there was a lot about it today on sessions. Accommodation, catering services, sports participation, tourist attractions, and access to accurate accessibility information. Across all categories, individuals with locomotive and multiply disabilities consistently reported the highest levels of difficulty. In contrast, people with temporary or age-related disabilities generally experience fewer barriers. What is very important? Access to reliable information remains a significant challenge, especially for those who depend on it a lot. So people with physical and sensory impairments. Let's see the figure, main challenges regarding accessible tourism. As you can see, policy and regulation, economic barriers, attitudinal barriers, information and communication problems, and obviously infrastructure and technology barriers. Which activities can be supporting in development of accessible tourism? So investment in infrastructure, training and awareness programs, especially for staff, for people who work in travel industry, policy harmonization and enforcement, inclusive design and technology, and accessible information. This information is really almost every time when we talk about accessible tourism. Conclusions. People with disabilities face significant barriers in accessible tourism, including inadequate infrastructure. There are technological limitations which hinder full participation. Access to information is often restricted due to non-adapted websites, booking systems, and insufficient accessible content. Continuing main conclusions, attitudinal barriers persist with staff lacking training. This is what I mentioned already. And also negative stereotypes contributing to social exclusion. So the reactions of other travelers. Economic challenges include the high cost of specialized services and limited financial support. Regulatory inconsistencies and weak enforcement of standards further limit accessibility. And two last conclusions. To address these issues, study recommends investments in infrastructure and transportation, improved staff training, development of accessible technologies, harmonized regulations, and inclusive information systems. Overall, the research emphasized the need for inclusive policies and systemic change to ensure equitable tourism opportunities for people with disabilities. We thank you for your attention. This is our part of Polish team, but we have here our colleague from Croatia. She is also participating this meeting in Turin, and obviously our Hungarian and Romanian friends. We will use the data because there is a huge database, and we have it not only for all countries, but for each separately. So for sure, we will be working on data, providing more information and more detailed findings for all our four countries, and hopefully you can use these data also for you. Thank you so much.
So thank you very much for your presentation. You wrapped it up in a very tidy way. I think that what your mapping of the situation shows is we have more evidence. I've also given a presentation about another survey that we did with ENAT today. And what this tells me is, on your very last sentence, when you mention about the data, this tells me that we have to work together with the UN Tourism Organization, where we heard this morning from Zorica Uresovic, who is the executive director for Europe at the UN Tourism. They will promote a database for accessibility information from next year. This is a new project for them, and it seems that we must interface with them to find the way to integrate the data and perhaps move towards a common framework for this kind of surveys and mapping of the travel habits and the difficulties and the barriers and the ways of implementing accessibility in practice. So I think we have a good opportunity here to operationalize, to turn into practice this kind of data and this kind of information. I think you've definitely confirmed the information that came from our MMGY study in 5 countries. That was France, Italy, UK, Spain, and Germany. You have confirmed that data very closely, some of the things that are very similar. So I think it's very interesting to see how we get to the next stage, sharing this data and putting it in the hands of people who can take decisions and investment in accessibility. So thank you very much. We've run a bit over time, but I think we've had a really exciting session here. It opened my eyes to a lot of new issues, and I'm really appreciative for you staying longer, but also just to say thank you for coming here to every one of you, because I know it's not always easy to travel, as we've heard, and lots of you may have experienced some difficulties getting here, but it's really great that people could at last come together, meet face to face after COVID, after years waiting since the previous World Summit. it's really good to meet you and to engage with you. And I hope everyone is having a good conference and meeting lots of new, inspiring, new friends and old friends. So let's look forward to tomorrow. See you tomorrow morning in the plenary session. We start again, I think, at the same time, early tomorrow, and have a good evening. Thank you.